So first of all, I just picked two common things that companies want to know about in regards to supplier management. One is, how many suppliers do we have for a specific category or specific product? Like why that matters is, I think a lot of people found this out in COVID. When things go wrong, you need backups. You need other suppliers in case shipments get screwed up or whatever the case might be. So if you've got really critical parts of your supply chain, you need to be able to flag that and say, how many suppliers do we have? And a lot of quality policies will mandate that. You have to have a certain amount of suppliers for critical components. So it's already, it's kind of a standard thing to do anyway. So that's one thing we're flagging here. And the other one is a supplier audit report. So, typically what happens is that companies have a lot of suppliers and they don't have as much people who are actively managing them. And what I mean by that is that things grow over time and sometimes the resources don't catch up or they don't get put in place so that you can effectively really manage that workload, because it just can get overwhelming at times. And simple things get missed. And if your existing system isn't measuring this and flagging it, then it's something you should be doing, and you can do it pretty simply with a tool like this. So that's what we're doing here. And basically all we're doing is looking at, okay, in this case, when were they entered into the system and when was the last audit? Now going forward, what you might want to do is update this a little bit. So you could say last audited and then most recent audit, because this is comparing to just the first date when they were entered. That's always going to be the same. So if you're just updating this column, it's going to look like, it's been a huge amount of time, even though that's not necessarily the case. So again, this is pretty simple. That's one of those things that you could expand upon this. Like your next audit, you might want to create another column here so that you've got kind of a last audited, most recent audited, and that's really the spread that you're looking at for if it's been too long since they've been audited. But in this case, we're just looking at when were they first entered and when were they audited. So the way this works, the macros are in the background. We'll go through that. But just clicking on the button does two things. So first, generating the summary. You can see it created a new sheet. We've got a summary here where we've got copper has 2 suppliers, valves have 3 suppliers. Now in this case, it's pretty easy to see that, okay? It's not that many lines of data. And actually, this is another thing that I always advocate for. Start with a very simple data set. Build out your tools with something that you can easily kind of manually verify. Because all you're really trying to do at first is verifying, do the macros work? Does the code work? And you want to do that on something simple that you can repeat over and over again until you get it perfect. And then after you've got that set, then expand your data set, okay? And then do it again and make sure it works. And then, after that, then look at different time periods of data sets. So, this month versus next month, or maybe even 3 months ago. Just start plugging in random data and doing spot checks, okay? And just making sure that it works. And after you do that, you'll get to a point where you're pretty confident that it'll work for any case. Now, there might be outliers, there usually is, but, overall, you can get to a system that's really good. But start simple. And so, here we go. So what we've done is it's grouped them. So the copper suppliers are together, the valve suppliers are together, and you've got a summary up here, and it's flagged the copper suppliers because there's only 2. And maybe that's a rule, and we have that set up in the macro as a rule of, I think, less than 3 get flagged as a potential risk. And so you can see, and then all the other information copies over. So if you're curious about anything else, it's all copying over, so you can do that. So this is a quick way to just do a quick scan and say, here are my categories. And in this case, it's doing it by category, not part by part number. And this is a simple way, you prove this out, and then if you've got a list of 1,000 suppliers, it'll do the same thing after you've proven it out. With the click of a button, you could see very quickly, which categories am I at risk for. And then if those are critical, then that's where you need to spend your time. So that's one example. And then if we go back here, we can do the supplier audit. And again, this is doing something similar, but basically what this is doing is it's, like I said, it's comparing when it was entered and last audited. That's what we're doing here. and it's categorizing them again. In this case, it's sorting them by most, I guess, delinquent in terms of audit, and to like least delinquent in terms of audit. And there again are specific rules set up in the macros. So if it's been within 30 days, it's a yellow. I think if it's been over 30 days, it's a red, which means like those need attention. You need to go audit those because it's been quite some time. And then pulling in the quality defects, like this is just like an interesting thing that you might find, right? Like, oh, it's been a while since they've been audited, and it turns out their quality defects are quite high. Like, that's what you might find. Or you might find that some of them are good, and then maybe in that case you might want to extend that rule for that supplier to say, okay, you don't need 30 days anymore. You could do 90 days because we've got the data to say that. And then that reduces the stress on your team. But if you find something like this where you're like, we flagged them as over, their quality defects are high, boom, there you go. That's where you need to focus. And again, all the rest of the information copies over. So, this is just another kind of quick example of a way you could make a pretty powerful tool.